This is me raiding a Minecraft Bastion a few years ago.
Wait, what? Oh, no, dude, I didn't do anything to you!
Now, ignoring my squeaky voice and the cringe-inducing memes, you can clearly see I have zero idea what I'm doing here. But hopefully, I can help you guys avoid being like me in this video by teaching you everything about finding and raiding Minecraft Bastions. Let's get straight into it. First, what even are Bastions? Well, Bastions are large fortress-like structures made of blackstone that spawn in the nether dimension. They can house piglins, piglin brutes, hoglins, and magma cubes. Along with that, the structures contain lots of valuable loot such as iron, gold, diamonds, and even netherite. So now that we can identify the structure, let's go over how to find bastions first. First, let's talk about the biomes which bastions spawn in. Bastions can spawn in every single nether biome, excluding one, basalt deltas. So bastions can spawn in the nether wastes, crimson forest, warped forest, and soul sand valley. If you want the biome where they most commonly spawn, well, the nether waste biome is probably your best bet. It's the most open and least hostile biome out of the four. Now that we've talked about biomes, let's talk about how bastions generate. Bastions don't actually generate independently. In fact, they just replace about 60% of all nether fortresses upon world generation. So for example, let's say there's 10 potential places in the nether where a fortress will spawn. It's likely that 6 of these fortresses could be replaced with bastions instead, as long as it's not in a basalt delta. This means that the way bastions generate and the way nether fortresses generate are pretty much the exact same, and because of this, we can find out a lot about bastion generation. First, when you're going around looking for a bastion, make sure your Y level is between 55 to 65. Bastions are most commonly found at this Y level, and you don't want to accidentally miss a bastion just because you were too high or too low in the world. And second, nether fortresses are a lot more common when traveling on the X-axis, so it's safe to assume bastions are as well. I actually have an entire video on how to find nether fortresses based on this fact, so from what we already established, it could help you find a bastion as well. Link is in the top right. So now that you've found yourself a bastion, what do you need to know from here? Well, one important thing is definitely the mobs you will face. Bastions can spawn 4 different mobs: piglins, piglin brutes, hoglins, and magma cubes. Piglins aren't inherently hostile, but their neutrality is conditional. First, you need to be wearing at least 1 piece of gold armor around the piglins. Not doing so will cause every piglin within a short range to immediately attack you. You also cannot open any sort of chest type block with piglins in direct line of sight. They will attack you even if you have gold armor. You cannot break a chest or any sort of gold type block near piglins either, and finally, you cannot attack a piglin. As long as you follow all these rules, the piglins will remain friendly with you. But Aether, I hear you saying, didn't you say bastions are full of valuable loot? How am I supposed to loot the bastion's riches if I can't even open a chest near the piglins? Well, for chests, I only said piglins will attack you if they see you opening the chest. Piglins cannot see you through the walls, in this case at least, so as long as you build a wall around the chest and then open it, you are still safe. They can, however, still detect you if you break a gold block or chest, but after about 30 to 45 seconds, they do cool down if you're not in their direct vision. But let's say you do anger the piglins by accident. Well, don't worry, because all you have to do is throw some gold at them. Any sort of gold item, the piglins will immediately get distracted, which gives you some time to make your escape. Don't get too excited though, as this next mob is not as deceivable. The piglin brutes are basically the guardians of the bastion. Their job is to ensure you don't come near the bastion or its riches at all. These guys do not care if you're wearing gold armor, they will attack you anyways. Even if you try to drop gold at them, they simply do not care. One good thing about them though is that they don't respawn in the bastion, so once you've killed all of them, you've basically killed them off for good. Regardless though, I would not recommend engaging them in direct combat unless it's from range. First of all, up close, they are extremely strong. They do crazy damage and have a ton of health, so just 2 piglin brutes can overwhelm you in melee combat pretty easily. Secondly, there is usually a lot of them in bastions, and attacking them will anger other piglins too, so you just end up making your situation worse. But fear not, as there is an easy way to deal with them. First, using boats. When a piglin brute charges towards you, you can simply place a boat and it will be stuck. Just be careful not to get too close, as they can still attack you. An even better way, however, is to use lava buckets, because using using lava doesn't actually anger the other piglins, you can kill a bunch of brutes this way, and lava kills quickly too, so this is quite useful. Do remember to always be on your toes though, and aware of your surroundings at all times, because if a piglin brute gets a fast one on you, it's pretty much game over. Another mob that can spawn is the Hoglin. This is a big boar-like mob that is hostile to any player, however don't worry, as piglins will not get mad if you kill a Hoglin. They are pretty beefy though, so if you don't want to fight them directly, you can also use an item called warped fungus. This fungus can be found in the warped forest biome, and placing it down on a flower pot will immediately steer any Hoglins away. You can also of course use the old reliable lava bucket method on them too. Also, just tower up 3 blocks, it basically just defeats them. While regular piglins have crossbows, Hoglins don't really have that kind of technology, and if push really comes to shove, you can just use your shield as their attacks are pretty slow. And finally, the Magma cube. This one can only spawn through spawners in treasure bastions. It's basically a giant slime that can jump higher and does more damage. The best way to deal with them is to get away and use a bow. Fight them from range because they are immune to lava and extremely slow movement wise. So now that you know how to defeat the different mobs you will encounter, let's go over each of the variants of the bastion, their layout, and how good their loot is. First, something consistent with every bastion is the ramparts. These are tall buildings or compartments you could say, and each bastion will have around 2 or 3 of these, it depends on the variant, but basically at the top of these buildings, you will always find loot chests, whether 1 or 3. A good rule of thumb is that usually, the taller the rampart, the more chests it'll have at the top. Now let's dive into the different bastion variants. First up, we got the Hoglin Stables Bastion. You can see this bastion has some ruined stables over here. It's kind of like 4 to 5 floors of just like stables. You can find chests kind of scattered about, but do be careful here though, as there are Hoglins, because this is the Hoglin Stables. These guys are right here, and you can just see the whole place is kind of in disarray. I mean, you got random blocks, ledges, and holes where you can fall into lava, so just be careful when you're navigating this part of the bastion. This area is not always consistent either. Sometimes there's like a bunch of chests, sometimes there's like 2 or 3. However, they will have some good loot in them. You have like ancient debris over here. You are guaranteed to have this chest as well. I don't know why it's covered by blocks. Usually that's not the case. Basically, this chest is right next to the staircase which leads up to the ramparts, and it'll have some above average loot here, like mostly gold and stuff, but it can have netherite upgrade templates as well and stuff like that, and there might be some gold blocks scattered about and stuff. But now let's look at the ramparts. Basically, you have 3 ramparts attached to these stables. If you're curious, this is one, this is another, and this is the third one. And these ramparts are extremely variable. Like, all of them can be super tall, or all of them can be short, and like I said, usually the tall ones have more chests like here. So if all 3 ramparts are short like this one, then it's pretty garbage. You're just gonna find like 1 chest per thing. So yeah, this bastion is very RNG based, but if you look at the tunnels and the ramparts, you can find a bunch of these snout blocks, and usually, yeah, if you dig behind these snout blocks, you will find hidden gold blocks inside. This actually goes for pretty much every bastion, not just the Hoglin Stables. And there can be more chests and 1 or 2 gold rooms, and basically this gold room will have like gold blocks, and if you dig under, yeah, there'll be like hidden gold blocks under here. Overall, I'd say this bastion is B tier in terms of loot on average, but if you get lucky with the ramparts, it can definitely be A tier. Probably the most inconsistent and dangerous bastion though, because of all the Hoglins. Then we got the housing units bastion. This bastion has a bunch of ruined housing units around each other, like apartment looking buildings. Usually there will be around 4 or 5 of these. You can find chests kind of scattered throughout them with pretty good loot, and there might be some exposed gold around if you're lucky. In the middle of it all, you can find a courtyard. This courtyard has some nether wart. It's actually the only other place in the game besides fortresses where you can find nether wart, and it'll have a chest right here with some pretty good loot as well. Now let's move on to the ramparts. They're kind of obscured by these blocks, but if we just go up, you can see the top of the ramparts. There's actually 2 ramparts here. This is the first one and this is the second one. Now, an important thing to remember is that the right rampart is always the best one, because it consistently has a double and single chest with really good loot. Right rampart, like from this perspective, like inside the bastion perspective. The left rampart is a bit more variable. Sometimes it's tall like this one and you get another set of chests, and sometimes it's just shorter and you might just get like a single chest. Like here, you can see it's still pretty good. I mean, you have ancient debris and stuff. Gold wise, this bastion also has tunnels just like the Hoglin Stables, And basically you can use the snout technique here, like digging behind the snout blocks. You can see there's some gold here. Overall, I'd say the housing bastion is pretty consistent, a little bit dangerous, not as dangerous as the Hoglin stables. I'm gonna give it an A tier. Then we got the bridges bastion. This one is identifiable by the giant piglin face you will find on the front. So I guess you could say like these are its eyes, like the lava, and then this is its snout, and then like this is its mouth right here. And then you got what appear to be the sort of arms, I guess. These are actually the ramparts of the bastion. Now on the bridge leading up to the piglin's mouth, you can see there's a big pocket of gold on the side, about 16 blocks of gold, and you can just really easily grab this because, you know, the piglins are like super far away here. Probably should build a wall just to be safe. There's also another bridge under here, like under the first bridge, so it's kind of a multi-layered bridge. One chest that you're guaranteed to find is in the piglin's nostril, so you can see there's like a doorway in the piglin's nostril right here. If we just enter through that and go behind the piglin's eye, so this is the piglin's eye, you will see there's a chest right here. It'll have a lodestone. Basically it's the trademark chest of the bridge's bastion. Besides that, it will have some other stuff, and there could be a chest through the other nostril as well, though I'm not sure here because it's obscured by blocks, but sometimes there can be one over here as well. Usually, at least if there's not a chest, there will be some hidden gold blocks, so not completely pointless, like sort of scouting this area. Now moving on to the ramparts, this is where you'll find the majority of the bastion's loot. So the ramparts are not always consistent. Sometimes they'll be tall, sometimes they'll be shorter, like here. Obviously, you would love both of them to be tall so you get the maximum number of chests, but you'll still get some okay loot from here if you don't. This bastion also has tunnels that are not easily accessible. You kind of have to go through like the lower bridge, I guess. You might find some other chests and gold in here. Overall, this bastion is pretty okay. Definitely the easiest to raid out of the 4, so I'm calling it B tier. And finally, we got the treasure room bastion. This is the biggest and best bastion in the game, but probably the second hardest to raid. So you can clearly see this bastion is divided into 2 segments. First, we got the 2 ramparts over here. These are basically identical. One will have a double chest with some pretty good loot right here, and the other one will have some single chests with some decent loot as well. Do be careful though, as there are lots of brutes around here. Like there can be around 3 brutes per rampart, so be really careful when you're raiding this part of the bastion. There are lots and lots of hidden gold blocks in these ramparts as well, so definitely keep your eyes peeled for that. And then we got the bridge that connects the 2 parts of the bastion. You can also see there are 2 gold blocks over here which you can just grab. Do be careful though, as this is the entrance to the main structure, so there will be lots of piglin brutes here. And speaking of the main structure, let's head into it actually. You can see it's this big like multi-floor room, you know, and you have like all these bridges and stuff, like broken bridges. You got this bridge at the bottom, and then you got this giant pit of lava. In the sort of side walkways, I guess you could call them, you will find some chests, and they will have some standard loot. And of course, at the bottom, you got this giant pit of lava. So this is basically the main part of the bastion, and it's the treasure room basically. I mean, you see all this gold here, you see these 2 chests. Yeah, these chests are just absolutely godly. I mean, you see diamond tools and armor, netherite upgrade templates, gold, iron, enchanted golden apples. Usually there'll only be like 1 or 2 of these, and they'll be like insanely good, but do be careful as there are brutes. And of course, you know, you got holes of lava in the treasure room. Please do not fall into these. I did this once and I lost my hardcore world. Also, do be wary of the magma cube spawner. As I was saying earlier in the video, this is where the magma cube spawn, the treasure bastion, and basically if you allow these to spawn too much, they'll get really annoying. And like, of course, they're like immune to lava and stuff, so you just won't be able to access the treasure room at all. So yeah, you gotta break the spawner really quickly if you can. Overall, this bastion is easily S tier in terms of loot, but do be careful as there are lots of piglin brutes around. I'm pretty sure there's like 16 on average, so yeah, be on your guard at all times. So now I'm gonna give you some extra tips for raiding the bastion. First, always raid bastions or part of the bastion from top down if you can. I mean, think about it. You have the high ground. Mobs coming up at you are going to be significantly easier to deal with than mobs descending on you all at once. Along with that, the top of the bastion usually has less lava, which is another factor. Another tip, always bring fire resistance potions for the lava. Slow falling helps too. It saves time having to build down and stuff, but regardless of that, bring lots and lots of blocks, because if you fall down in an area, it's quite difficult to get out without them. Blocks are also quite useful for escaping brutes and hoglins. Of course, get a bunch of food, shield, healing items, all of that good stuff as well. And one more tip, believe in yourself. If you guys did enjoy this video, then please consider dropping a like and a sub, and as always, I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.